Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale in Abuja. Tonight, we have some conversations that you do not want to meet. I ask the question, all these wealth that you find everywhere that are unexplained, the kind of corruption that we see in Nigeria today, mind-boggling. There are those who have accused people in the civil service, people in the government sector, politically exposed persons. Where are these wealth coming from? You remember the judgment in the P&ID case and how that went in the United Kingdom. How did we even get to that point that even the judge in the United Kingdom says Nigeria was compromised by Nigerians to the extent that Nigeria would have paid up to 11 billion US dollars as compensation on a fraudulent contract? What kind of situation do we find ourselves as a people? So much that corruption has eaten so much into the fabric of our nation. Tonight we're having some frank conversation about how we can turn the hands of time. But before we get into that conversation, a very distinguished senator will be joining me to discuss that. But let's get into a conversation also that bothers the mind. Oh, this is a momentous period in our country, a turning point in the honors of the Nigerian judiciary, as we bear witness to a moment of unwavering truth and justice. Justice Musa Datijo, a towering figure in the legal world, has taken a stand against the pervasive issue of corruption within the Supreme Court and the broader Nigerian judiciary. In a statement that is as courageous as it is unprecedented, Justice Datijo unveils a piercing examination of the challenges in corruption plaguing the very heart of our justice system, igniting a fire of reform and accountability. In Justice Musa Datijo's groundbreaking statement, it dissects the corrosive influence of corruption within the hallowed chambers of the Supreme Court and the wider judiciary. Let me allow you to listen. The man was retiring, but before he left, he opened a can of worms in the judiciary and how the judiciary itself has immersed itself in corruption. Take a listen to Justice Datijo.
A couple of years ago, appointment to the bench was strictly on merit. Strictly on merit. Sound knowledge of the law, integrity, honor, and hard work distinguished those who were elevated. Lobbying was unheard of. Lobbying to accost justices into their chambers by people who seek to be elevated, that the judges should put in words for them, were unheard of. You will just be sitting, and if those who are given the responsibility of making the elevation find you worthy, you will just get a letter to that effect. You wouldn't have gone to anybody to ask for any favors or recognition. But that is not the case today, unfortunately. I never lobbied, not at any stage of my career, to secure any appointment or elevation. And I challenge anybody to contradict this statement of mine. As much as possible, the most qualified men and women were appointed. That can no longer be said about appointments to the bench these days. The judiciary must be uniquely above board. Appointments should not be polluted by political, selfish, and sectional interests. The place of merit, it must be urged, cannot be overemphasized.
I needed you to listen to that statement from Justice Datijo. That is not the entire gamut of the speech, of course. That his whole speech was published on Channels Television's website, channelstv.com. But with a distinguished career spanning over decades, Justice Datijo brings unparalleled insight and unyielding commitment to transparency to this crucial discussion. His statement is a call to action, a fervent plea for reforms, and a statement to the resilience and dedication of those who seek to uphold the rule of law in Nigeria. His statement, however, reminds me of what Senator Adamumbu Kachua said at the valedictory session of the 9th National Assembly. Take a listen to him again. I'll remind you of this.
Thank particularly my wife, whose freedom and independence I encroached upon while she was in office. And she has been very tolerant and accepted my encroachment and extended her help to my colleagues.
Distinguished, please, I don't think this is a good idea, go in this direction. It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea, please.
Is he a statement of straight from the heart? A statement of a slip of tongue? Because there has been a lot of controversy about what Senator Bukachua said about his wife, who was in the bench before. So that on one hand, about what happened between his colleagues and how the kind of help they got from his wife. Now, as if that was not enough. It was a moment, another moment of honorable, off your mic. Another statement on that same event, it was curiosity. It was Senator Rochas Okorocha who was speaking now to the Senate President at the time about how he's able to get back to the Senate. Listen to Senator Okorocha.
We shall all stand to say Nigeria is a great country. And to those of you, our colleagues, including you, Mr. Senate President, you know you're a very smart politician. How you came back is yet another political book to discuss.
Sorry?
I say how you came back is another chapter in our political history.
How I came back from where?
Mr. Senate President, how you return to the Senate as a senator will open another chapter of great discussion in our political book. Because I was there in the field with you running for president. I never knew how you were able to meander and return and live in some of us. Next time, you must teach me how to do that.
It was easy. It was easy. I was there with you in the field, but after our defeat, my constituents thought they needed me again.
Justice Datijo did not go out of service without mentioning some of those cases he felt were cause for, some scrutiny. But join us tonight, first and foremost. Let's deal with that before we get into our main conversation tonight, as we delve into the profound implications of this statement, one that aims to reshape the future of the judiciary, ensuring that it stands as a beacon of impartiality and integrity for all Nigerians. I have tonight joining me a former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, Professor Chidi Odinkalu, who joins us virtually. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us tonight. I don't want to be told that...
Thank you for having me, John.
I don't want to be told. The other day that I was cautioning you about the way you spoke and on the issue of corruption in the judiciary, and I have a feeling that when I speak it tonight, you will be laughing at me. You were grinning when I called you earlier to invite you on this program about what you said, and I was cautioning you. But because you're a member of the bar, you probably understand how far-reaching some of these issues are. Were you shocked by what Justice Dati just said?
No, sir.
So in all what Justice Dati just said, how bad do you think... was he able to speak to the extent of the kind of corruption you think exists in the judiciary? If there is corruption in the judiciary, thinking that it's even at the highest level of the holiest of the holies of Nigerian judiciary, the apex court, the Supreme Court, where we all bow to as the last hope of the masses.
Now, Sean, if I may, let me remind you, or remind all of us, or those who are watching, in when he retired from the Supreme Court in 2004, that's nearly 20 years ago, the Honorable Justice Samson Owaifo, who is still alive, had complained that in the 70s and 80s, allegations of judicial corruption were confined to the magistracy, and that by the 90s, it had appeared to have climbed up to the High Court. And by the time he was retiring, he was afraid that it had got to the appellate level. He also said something else, that at the time he was leaving, people who did not present with the intellectual capabilities for success at the legal profession were being appointed to the judiciary at the High Court. And he feared that these inadequate people were going to rise to the cream of the appellate court system in a short time. In 2011, if you may remember, the story broke, two stories actually. One was the quarrel between the then president of the Court of Appeal and the then Chief Justice over allegations that the then Chief Justice sought to instruct the Court of Appeal as to how to decide the case relating to the dispute relating to the governorship election then in Sokoto State. That ultimately led to the firing of the president of the Court of Appeal, and the Chief Justice then retired under a cloud. In that same year, the then Speaker of the House of Representatives was credited in a cable transmitted by the American ambassador then of having told the American ambassador that the Supreme Court collected money to decide the appeal in respect of the 2007 presidential election. I'm not making this up. All of this is in writing. All of this is evidenced in writing. So I'm just telling you I'm giving you a tale of the tape. And so what the Honorable Justice Datijo Muhammad talked about basically reflects a trend that has itself been fully documented, and the timeline has been reflected in the history of remarks by retiring justices of the Supreme Court over the past 20 years.
Now, I like to say this with all sense of modesty and all sense of loyalty and also sense of patriotism, that the courts are hallowed in every sense of the word, and the courts are indeed the last hope of the common man. That's where you can run for cover if you have any issue. In fact, any arms of God, the arms of government, they have issues, they go to the court for settlement. Without the court, our society will be in trouble, in chaos. But then, if this kind of thing is happening, and the kind of expose that we've seen about some corrupt judges, which some of their colleagues or some members of the bar have said, and some kind of insinuation and inference that have come up about corrupt judges, because there are corruption in every aspect of our lives, not only in Nigeria, but everywhere. But where you do not want to hear that the corruption exists is in the courtroom. How do we deal with this?
Well, first of all, we deal with it by acknowledging it honestly. And I do not agree with you in the spirit of honesty that Nigerian courts today are the last hope of the common man or woman. If you had said the courts should be the last hope of the common person, I would agree.
Are things that bad, Prof?
Are they today the
are
last
things that
hope
bad? Is it that our
yes,
courts
sir.
not? Are we're not able to rely on our courts? Are things so bad within the bench?
Yes, they are. I'm not going to come here to lie to you. The courts should be the last hope of the common person. I will agree with you. Are Nigerian courts today the last hope of the common person? No, sir. We cannot be honest with ourselves if we cannot admit that the Chief Justice swearing in his son as High Court, appointing his son and swearing him in is a problem. We cannot be honest if we don't agree that the President of the Court of Appeal, sitting in the NJC, approving appointment for her son-in-law and approving appointment for the daughter is a problem. The least they can do is that when these things come up, they recuse themselves. Okay? That is the least they can do. Because being a judge is not a family inheritance. Being a judge is not a sexually transmitted condition. Husbands don't inseminate their wives with judgeships. Men don't inseminate their mistresses with judgeships in the bedroom. I am sorry. We have to be brutal with ourselves. This has got too far. And every time I say this, I get abused. But I'm going to insist on keep saying it because the stakes are too high. The issues are too important. Ordinary people are being ruined by this. And we cannot continue to pretend as if we don't know that this is a problem. Now we are hearing it from the judges themselves. So it's not rabble-rousers like me saying this anymore. And saying, now, I started saying this over nearly 25 years ago. I quarreled with Justice Ebo because at that point, for those whose memories go that far back, Justice Ebo, I kept pressing on his case and on his neck until he was retired compulsorily. But that was the beginning of the problem. Now we have an epidemic. And yes, it has got up to the Supreme Court. And we have to acknowledge that if you have a judicial system in which judges of the Supreme Court are saying that the Supreme Court is itself in a problem, then you have a credibility crisis. It can no longer be described as the last hope of the common man. We have to address it.
So now, I'm hoping to understand where are we going to start from. Are there still good men in our society that can serve in the bench today? And where do we find them?
There are good men and there are good women. Yes. Those good men and good women are not confined to the sons and daughters and wives and husbands and mistresses of sitting judges and politicians. That is the problem. Look around and see. The 17 senior advocates in Kogi State today are asking that appointments to the bench be suspended because the state governor, they allege, wants to make his wife a high court judge. Right? That is how bad it has got. Every senior politician wants the person who is in their bedroom or in their family to become a high court judge. How do you run a country like that? So that honest people no longer even get a chance to be considered. And people who are decent and successful and bright and intelligent with integrity no longer have a chance to be considered. If you don't have people from your family or your political clan running the appointments, that is the problem. And when, therefore, the retired Justice of the Supreme Court, most recently retired, says the first thing you do is unbundle the office of the Chief Justice, we have to take that very seriously. The Chief Justice has become, as an institution, I'm not making imputations against the person, as an institution, the Chief Justice has become too dangerous to the country. It's got to be unbundled.
I was reading an article, and there's an excerpt from a professor of law, Agbo Madaki, who said this. He said, law should be interpreted to serve justice. When justice is done according to law, it could lead to injustice because of the imperfections of the law. Professor Agbo Madaki, I mean, that could be a jurisprudential argument in the areas of academics, but there are realities of the imperfections of our law. And I'm wondering, Professor Odinkalu, if you can give us a sense of how bad things are. For example, there are those who say they pay for judgment. There are those who say there are pre-conscripted judgment that are handed over to judges. Are those the case truly? Are these the realities? If you can mention 2 or 3 things, because an average citizen will say, why then do I need to go to court when I will not get justice? But what is justice in itself? When there are issues of technicality, is it allowed in law? If you follow the law and oppose justice, what is justice? What is law? What are those commonly perpetrated evil in the bench that we need to expose tonight?
Look, the NJC, over the 20-year period from 1999 to 2019, the NJC considered just under 1,000 petitions against judges, and the strike rate in terms of success rate was about just under 15%, right, of judges in respect of petitions in respect of which they decided there was a case and there was culpability on the part of the judge. That's actually an extraordinarily high strike rate, given that the NJC is very reluctant to discipline judges. But when you look at the kinds of allegations that were found, in 2005, for instance, you had the case in respect of Senator Ugochukwu concerning Anambra South Senatorial District, where two justices of the Court of Appeal were found on record by the NJC to have collected money. In that case, you are talking about one was given 15 million naira in the money then. Another collected 12 million naira. And I can give you their names if you want, because all of this is public record. I'm not making any of this up. Justice Adeniji and Justice Okuchukwu Opene of the Court of Appeal. I should also mention here that of the three justices in the case, one of them, Justice Akas, absolutely refused to collect a dime. He declined any importunations. He ruled according to the evidence and the law and became the minority in the case. But you know the good thing? He got up to the Supreme Court because he refused to be corrupted. So let nobody think that I'm here to keep telling stories about corrupt people or corrupt judicial officers. We also have had, and we have evidence of incorruptible judicial officers. The problem now is that they are few and far between, and they don't travel high enough. That is the problem, and we've got to fix that. And we've also got to fix the situation in which the only people who are now getting processed to appointments are the sons and daughters, husbands and wives, and I will continue to insist, mistresses and lovers of sitting judges and sitting politicians. That is the biggest problem. And why is that a problem? Because it is front-loading the corruption. It's no longer buying and selling of judgments. It is that people are now planting their families in corrupt relationship with the judicial system to make sure that down the road, you cannot even get any idea of justice.
It's so sad. But quickly, Prof, there are issues of payment. I mean, Justice Adijah is saying that a registrar of the Supreme Court is earning more than him, who is a judge or justice of the Supreme Court. In some way, imbalance, isn't it? I don't know how RAMFAC or how any agency of government calculated in such a way that the registrar is earning more than the judge of a very senior member of the bench. And another thing is, in fact, the CJN himself is saying there are just 10 judges left, justices of the Supreme Court left. What are we waiting for to appoint justices to the Supreme Court? They are already loaded with work. And I can't remember in the last 2 decades or so when we've had a fully complemented Supreme Court appointment at a time. I mean, there is always a deficit. Where do we go from here?
We have got to reform judicial appointments and reform them fast, very fast, urgently. Now, again, this is about politicians and their interests. In 2008, Justice Ogebe, who presided over the presidential petition, was quickly moved up to the Supreme Court. Decent man, honest man, great judicial record, but it set a bad precedent. And increasingly, judges who sit on presidential petitions are now moved up to the Supreme Court, which again builds into the system perverse incentives. And it is these perverse incentives that we have got to eliminate. The perverse incentives that appear to make it possible. Now, we are talking about how registrar of the Supreme Court earns more than justices. But the same registrars of the Supreme Court want to become judges and go to the High Court and then start climbing up. If that is not a perverse incentive, I don't know what is. Why would they want to become judges if they are earning more than the justices of the Supreme Court?
Well, again, there are South, South, Southeast. They are not represented. That's one of the things Justice Adijah also said. And he said that it portends bad for our judiciary.
Now, the circular here, Justice Sidibage resigned from the Supreme Court to become Sarkin Lafia in 2019. He has not been replaced nearly 5 years later, over 4 years later. What kind of system do we have? I can tell you the story of how it is that he has not been replaced, but we don't have the time here for it because the details are there for anyone who is interested in following judicial appointments in Nigeria. But the point is that we shouldn't be there. We should have a quick enough system. And partly, I've got to regrettably say this is institutional laziness on the part of President Buhari, because there is no way you can have a situation in which in 2019, vacancies existed in the Supreme Court. 4 years later, after he left, those same vacancies still exist. He must take personal responsibility for his failure in this. We've got to call him out for his failure in ensuring that those appointments were made.
Just in about 30 seconds, Prof, to wrap up. The judicial reforms, I think most of it will fall on the table of the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice. And the appointor is the President of the Federation, who will make suggestions to the CJN. Do you believe and do you think that these men will do right by Nigerians and their true conscience, make sure that our judiciary is rid of the kind of dirt that we have wrought that has been described to have been now?
So it's not just men, it's also women. The President of the Court of Appeal is a woman. Her predecessor was a woman. And we have seen with certainly the immediate past President of the Court of Appeal, allegations of improper behavior by her husband under cover of parliamentary immunity. So no gender is safe in this whole thing. We're all messed up, all right? So if we're going to fix this thing, the only thing I can say is that the judiciary is too important to be left to male or female judges alone and politicians. Citizens must take serious interest in what happens in the judiciary. And no, we can no longer abandon it to an incest of politicians and judges. That is what got us into this mess to begin with. We've got to insert citizens into this and insert them in a big way to make sure that we contain the damage that the politicians and the judges and lawyers, Nigerian Bar Association leadership, are doing to our judiciary and administration of justice. Sorry.
I can boldly give you a title tonight. Professor Chidi Odinkalu, an active judicial activist. Thank you so much indeed for saying this and giving us insight into the situation of our courts today. Thank you so much indeed for your time. All right, then.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Thank you so much indeed. We switch gears now and speak about yet another kind of corruption that is prevailing in our country. Our attention is now on the issue of unexplained wealth and the staggering levels of corruption in Nigeria. Recent statistics reveal a deeply troubling reality. Corruption has not only battered the Nigerian economy, but has also impeded the nation's progress for years. Unexplained wealth, often associated with corrupt practices, continue to cast a long shadow over the nation's future. According to Transparency International, Nigeria consistently ranks among the most corrupt countries in the world, with over 70% of its citizens reportedly experiencing bribery in their daily lives. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, further highlights the scale of this issue, with billions of naira lost to corrupt practices annually. These staggering figures serve as stark reminders that corruption remains a pervasive problem, hindering the socio-economic development that Nigeria so desperately needs. The consequences of this widespread corruption are not just numbers on a page, but have real and far-reaching impacts on the lives of Nigerians. It's a harsh reality that deprives millions of citizens of vital resources, stifles economic growth, and hampers the development of critical infrastructure and public services. As a result, Nigeria struggles with challenges like inadequate healthcare, poor education, and a lack of basic amenities. This alarming situation underscores the urgent need for comprehensive reforms to combat corruption and recover stolen assets. Tonight, I have joining me Senator Ali Ndume, a senator representing Borno South in the National Assembly. Between the next few seconds that we have before break, let's open the conversation. Thank you so much, Senator, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
How bad is this issue of unexplained wealth in Nigeria?
Well, it's so bad that most Nigerians know about it, but nothing is virtually being done about it. You know that there are some wells out there, even in your area here. This is Guzape. You see out here, the studio, massive buildings. That if you just simply ask the question, then you find out that it's not the business people or estate developers, but individuals. And you cannot comprehend how they come about such wealth. And nothing is done about it. Nothing is being done about it. And as you rightly said when we started, the earlier the government does something about corruption, the better for us.
When you say unexplained wealth, because I read one of your speeches about it, and I know that you are trying to bring this up on the floor of the Senate and to discuss it deeply and perhaps find solution, is also something that also affects some of you and your colleagues about the issue of unexplained wealth, about suddenly someone just coming into a political office and all of a sudden he becomes a big man, someone who comes from nothing, and suddenly, just in a few months, suddenly he cannot explain what. Is our system so porous that we cannot check these kind of things?
Yeah, it is. And that's why there is the need to urgently sign what I even think the president who comes in, or even the last one that they still came in with this mantra of fighting corruption. And if we don't fight the corruption, there can't be meaningful development. And in fact, the effect of it rolls over so many things. So that is the need for the unexplained wealth. And it is being practiced, adopted by United Nations. UK has what they call unexplained wealth order. America, France, Germany, and even Kenya recently. They have this law that gives a court or investigating bodies like EFCC, ICPC to now investigate. It is not like taking somebody to establish criminality. No. It's just like, if you are wearing this watch and I know your income, it's not in tandem with the value of that.
Yeah.
It's simply to say,
explain it.
Explain. If you have explained convincingly, then you are free to go and have your watch. But if you do not explain adequately, that watch is seized and then auction if it have to, and the proceeds goes into the government account because it's people's money.
Are you trying to lead that debate and for a bill on the floor of the Senate?
Yeah, I've tried severally. I've tried, but the excuse here and there. I think the best way to get this across is when the bill comes from the executive. The executive, or in the interim, the president, the current president, should sign an executive order on unexplained wealth.
So it is not only on citizens. I mean, we have political office order.
Yeah.
In fact, there are research that are being done that in Nigeria today, most of the houses that you find in Asokoro, Maitama, in Lekki area of Lagos, and in the posh and the luxurious areas of major cities in Nigeria are owned by civil servants.
Yeah, that's it. I know of civil servants that live in a house that their income, not only their income, their salary or their life pension, assuming they will live in this world for 90 years or 100 years, if you calculate their legitimate income, you cannot buy the house they are living in. And in Nigeria, they find it comfortable to drive from that house to their office. The same thing with some of our politicians, especially the politically exposed sponsors and those, and like ministers. You find, as you rightly said, you find some of us come to the National Assembly and suddenly, So they need to investigate so that the fight against corruption should not be reactive, it should be proactive. And then you try to discourage people. Like right now, an American senator is in court and he's likely to be jailed.
Why?
Because he got FBI. Is this FBI they have there?
Yeah, FBI, yeah.
Yes, I think it was not a whistleblower, but information, because they have informants everywhere. Raided his house, they found a Mercedes-Benz and then bar of gold and cash dollars, and they took him to court because That's not explained well. And they allege, actually, after a thorough investigation, that they're alleging that he got this money by influencing. He's the chairman of Foreign Affairs, I think. Yeah, Foreign Affairs. The business for some Egyptians. Right now in America, he's in court.
Let's take a breather, Senator, because there is so much to talk about on this part and how, I mean, there is also corruption in the fact that you have tried to push it, but it has been stifled. That's another corruption that is happening. And you are saying that it's not looking successful from the legislative side. The executive should make it happen.
Yes.
That's another dilemma that we are facing. Plus also, you also explained to us, has your own vehicle, your luxury vehicle arrived?
No, I don't know, honestly.
All right, we'll get to know whether or not that is needed based on the agitation from Nigerian citizens and perhaps how you walked out on Senator Akpabio, those people who believe that you're angry with him and the manner he's running the Senate. All of this, part of our conversation when we return from this break, everyone. Honestly. So much, everyone. Senator Ali Ndume, Senator representing Borno South in the National Assembly, has been speaking with us tonight. And if you drive around Abuja or you live in Lagos and drive around Lekki area, you might have seen or experienced those buildings that, in fact, sometimes there are no persons living in those houses. Are they, or could they be, the product of unexplained wealth? An idea that Senator Ali Ndume and some of his colleagues have tried to put in the National Assembly and has not really worked on how people steal money from this country or illicit money come into this country, and you cannot explain it, but you see it around. Senator Ali Ndume, I mean, I'm pushed to almost ask you, is that not a failure on your own side and some of your colleagues that this kind of important bill that we see to curtail and curb corruption is not able to succeed?
Well, I will partially accept what you say, but equally, Sheung, we as politicians are public servants.
You should be public servants.
Yes.
But a lot of the times, that is not the case. That is your role, ordinarily.
Wait, the public are those that are supposed to put us on our toes, to represent them, to account for our actions, or even our assets, or our belongings. That's why before you are sworn in, you need to go to Code of Conduct Bureau to declare your assets. But how many times have you heard of the Code of Conduct Bureau? And we declare our assets at the end.
But do you know what happens, Senator?
Yes.
At the Code of Conduct Bureau, a lot of them, they will say, this is my property. It costs about 1 naira. They will say it's 10 naira.
Yes.
But when they come back, they will now deflate it so that they, you know the reasons.
But still, that is a loophole from the Code of Conduct. Because if you say, I have this is my laptop, which I didn't have, or it's a laptop that is costing 50,000 or 500,000, and I declare it as something that is 2 million, anticipating that I'll buy an upgrade of that to cover. It is the responsibility of that institution to check.
But does it have the capacity? Because this system has not built and they do not have the capacity to do what they are supposed to do.
They have to build the capacity.
So the question is that
with you.
Not you are saying that the executive should push the bill for unexplained wealth.
Not only pushing.
To propose it.
You see,
to be an executive bill.
Not only that. To me, should be more than that. This government, on the previous one especially, came under the mantra of fighting corruption. You can't fight corruption effectively by being reactive. You have to be proactive. You have to know. You have to make the public know that you are working, you are investigating people, not when your opponent or your enemy or your rival writes an appointment, petition against you to EFCC or ICPC or no. They don't have to wait for petition. They are supposed to be tracking us, for example, the politically exposed persons, to know. And even, the private individuals and the public and the corporate organizations, because this corruption is not only with the politically exposed or public servants or civil servants.
How dangerous is this unexplained wealth? There are those who say a lot of the terrorism that we see and the insecurity we see in the country today are linked to these people who cannot explain their wealth.
No, it's
and they're using it to fight the state.
It's part of it. Part of it is, as you said, financing of criminalities. And then there are some that you have not mentioned in Nigeria now that is growing. That is, we are joining the cartel, where drug barons move money from here. You find the cocaine being seized, you know, and then the question is, where do they get it from? Because it's not produced in Nigeria.
For those kind of criminality.
No, the criminals is a worldwide something now they have to go around. That is another sect itself. There are some people that are doing this through Yahoo now, but the ones we see arrested are small ones. And the one that maybe one or two, and which you know, was arrested, was a big one, but it is international. But you have them in Nigeria. You know, for example, the amount of money the banks lose as a result of internet fraud. But all we see is the Yahoo boys, they call, that, you know, defraud people 1 million, 2 million or so, you know. But the big ones. And you can see also, even the civil servants that are caught in the distance of corruption, they go free almost, so to say. That is, they go on bail, on whatever they call it, self-recognizance bail. And then you start hearing them that they are trying to settle with the government out of court. What do they call it again, that term? A plea bargain.
Plea bargain, yeah.
No, I mean, we're not serious. But
I mean,
this government...
this President Bola Tinubu, wants to show the world and this country that he wants to fight corruption.
He must start. If I were him, not necessarily after this program, tomorrow is Monday, you should just bring a paper and sign presidential executive order.
On unexplained wealth.
Unexplained wealth.
If you are a politician, you're a minister, you're a senator,
you're
living above your means.
Yeah. You should explain why you got that money.
The EFCC chairman, the new guy,
I asked him. I told him.
In fact, what he's done last week was to ask all EFCC officials to then now declare their assets.
Yeah.
But I think we need to go further than that.
Yeah, that is also not very far, because I have been following the system. You see corruption in EFCC.
Really?
Yeah, you see it. When you go to EFCC, maybe transferred from police to EFCC, after 1 year, 2 years old, 2 years, you see the difference.
So there's corruption in EFCC itself that is supposed to be fighting corruption.
Yeah, you can see it. Not that I cannot pin it down, but you can see it. You just explain about your watch. You say people will, and I asked you, why did you get this watch? You have to tell me now.
Yeah.
The next thing is, when after leaving here, I'll find out who is that your friend that gave you this watch,
yes.
and whether it is true.
It is true or not.
But if not, then I will ask the EFCs to come and collect.
Come and find out and see.
It's Katia, is it?
Yeah.
It's Katia?
Yeah.
The cost of that your watch is about 5 million. You said it.
I need to make a lot of money then
if you go, if you want me to auction it for you, I can get you 2 million.
As an agent.
Yes. I can get you 2 million.
I mean, this is not a joke.
I'm serious. No, it's not a joke.
The fact remains that we need to be serious about fighting this corruption.
But I told you now, right now, if it's simple to me, especially, I'm not a professional, but if I am a professional, I saw this your watch, and I gave an example of it. And during the break, you said, this is what happened. And I agree with you.
But I'd like to know, if you are asking the executive to take this action,
yes,
and if they don't do it, because you said it's not been successful in the National Assembly,
yes, I asked,
where do we go from here?
I don't know.
Because we need to find a solution.
The public can pressurize the executive or even us, the lawmakers, and even the international community. Remember, the genesis, the origin of EFCC was because in 2020, the global financial something refused to recognize Nigeria unless they set up NFIU.
NFIU, yeah.
That was what led to the establishment of EFCC. And the first person appointed then was Ribadu. The NFIU in Nigeria is there still. And they are working, but they are not effective. Because we have not seen any result.
Yeah, but because, again, I bring it to some of you who are in the government. Those of you who are in the National Assembly, a lot of Nigerians have questioned the morality of you getting those luxury vehicles. You're terming it as for logistics and for operational purpose. I say, look, if you want to do operations, those are not the kind of vehicles. You get something that can weather the storm, not an expensive, luxurious vehicle as a Land Cruiser. Well, which we understand will cost about 160 million, Senator.
No, I don't know.
How do you explain to people of Borno South that their senator is driving, is living in opulence, and yet they are living in poverty?
Well, I really didn't want to talk about this. Because first of all, for me, I've been in this system for long. In 1999, when it was at the 4th or 5th Assembly, buying vehicles for public servants or civil servants is not a new thing. It is only, as you said, what are the implications? What is the cost? And what are the alternatives? For me, the issue that has been raised, yes, the public has that right to do that. But for me, I come to serve the people, and in serving the people, my major constitutional role is oversighting and making laws. If I have to do that effectively, then I need a vehicle that will enable me to do that effectively. That is, I think, the idea behind buying.
But over the years, that idea has grown into...
Over the years, that cost is going up.
And the quality of the vehicle also has gone up.
Yes.
Because I remember...
Because there's a reason.
406.
Yeah, 406. Our 406.
Camry, you were being offered those vehicles.
Yeah, but it did not serve the purpose. That is why the senators then, I think in 2007, went for Prado. But that Prado was the least of Jeeps, the cost. But remember that time. Mm-hmm. But then I think we lost 2 senators or so because of the instability of the vehicle. So that was why when next they went for Land Cruiser. By then, the difference between the cost of Prado that was bought VX and the Land Cruiser was not that much. Then I was in the leadership then. Even now, I don't know the cost of each vehicle they are buying. That is supposed to be the responsibility of the management. But it is not also new that public servants, especially in the rank of ministers, heads of parastatals and all that, it's not new to buy vehicle for them. Yes, I understand that the cost is high, but when you look at you make the cost-benefit analysis, then you begin to wonder, what is it that is supposed to be done? Do you now say that no vehicle for the senators because of the economic...
Some of your colleagues are making the defense that ministers are getting 6 vehicles.
Yeah. But that is one of the excuses too.
But the question is that, does it make it right?
No.
The question is that the state of the country, the state of the economy is bad. People are suffering. There's poverty in the land. Can those who say they are representing the people, representing the poor people, and they are living life, is it explainable, Senator?
It is. Because, number one, I and you have agreed that we need mobility to do our work effectively. Then you do the calculation. We are about 200 million in Nigeria, 774 local government. And I don't know the cost, the total cost of what is being spent on these vehicles and divide it by, let's say, okay, don't buy the vehicles and give Nigeria their money for the vehicles. And distribute it among Nigerians. Calculate it. You'll find out that it may end up...
Yeah, because I need to ask you one more question before we close, Senator.
Yeah.
Do you think if you take that kind of vehicle to Borno South, would your constituent clap for you or boo you?
No, it's not a big deal. Because right now, I came here with when I came here with the Land Cruiser that was given to me during...
the 8th Senate?
Yes, the 9th Senate.
9th Senate, but have you finished paying for it?
No.
You're supposed to pay for it
No.
at the end of the day?
No, I pay for Carlo. This is not my... This is not...
But this one is being given to you, isn't it?
No, not given to me. It was boarded to me. After 4 years of using it, the vehicles were boarded, and the senators have the right of first refusal.
How much was it boarded to you?
I can't remember the exact...
But at a very ridiculous...
No. I complained even.
So, Senator, we have just about 30 seconds to go. What is wrong with the undercurrent between you and Senator Akpabio? You seem to be not the first time you have objected to his style of leadership. You have a problem with him?
No. My problem maybe is the way he handled the situation. And what happened the last time was, I think, misunderstood or taken out of context. Look, don't forget, I fought here. I came here and campaigned for Akpabio. You can't build a house and destroy it. But I think the main problem is that I'm more experienced than him.
So when you don't agree with
No, not agree.
Style.
No, when I try to correct him, then sometimes like that incident now, he overruled me. You don't overrule your chief whip. No, not even, yes.
You're supposed to be the one that
I'm supposed to be the one to call him to order, not me. And then that time he's supposed to invite me. Say, come, then we talk one-on-one. But he said,
not overruling you separately.
Yes, he took advantage of the gavel. And coincidentally, it was 12:30.
And you needed to go and pray.
Thank you.
But who are those that are planning to impeach him in the Senate?
Well, I'm hearing that too. But it's not new in the...
And you know that in the Senate, when you are hearing, it's likely to happen.
No, it's not likely to happen. I can tell you that. It will be...
We're totally out of time, Senator. It's always a pleasure talking to you. On this bill of unexplained wealth, we will not leave you until something is done. Let's make it happen as a people.
Yeah, I would try to do that. In fact, what I was thinking, I already shared this idea with the Attorney General of the Federation. And I spoke with the president sometime back before he became the president. And he's so much concerned, too, about the corruption in the country.
Thank you so much indeed, Senator Ali Ndume, Chief Whip of the Senate, and Senator representing Borno South. Well, that's our program tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Okimale. God bless Nigeria.